This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
This afternoon's drive time is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focusing on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of one's life. Now, nearly 80% of the brain growth, it happens in the first 1,000 days of a little one's interactions. Now, we're talking between playing, reading, singing, just all of those physical things that takes place, and that's when it starts happening right then. And letting you know, if you like more information, you can lock in at littlemomentscount.org. And I got Arielle. I like to say good afternoon, and how are you doing this early afternoon?
Hey, Q-Bear. I'm doing well. How are you?
About 6'3" and chilling, and old enough to do some things twice.
Love it.
Yeah. Now to pronounce your last name correctly. Now,
yeah.
Go ahead and try. Go ahead and go for it.
Now, this is Arielle Handevidt, is how you say my last name.
Handevidt.
Yes, you got it.
Oh, get down with the get down. Okay. That other class I took worked out. It worked out. So one of the things when it comes to Northside Achievement Zone, give us just a little bit about your area and space that you work in, because you're starting out with the youngsters on an early age.
We are, yep. Over at Northside Achievement Zone at NAS, we are beginning when we know about a pregnancy. So we want to be thinking about that child before they're even here. And some of the work we're doing in early childhood is connecting families to doulas. We have birth doulas going out to the hospital with families, making sure the scholars make a good appearance right away, and then supporting them from there on out, really until their scholar is off to college and seeing them through.
No doubt. Now, when it comes to the youngsters and starting out at a very young age, and why is it so important to have a daily routine, for the youngsters themselves and starting out early? That's question number one, but I'm sliding in number two. And number two is when you're talking about with consistency of being at home, and we're talking about regular meals and bedtimes and playtime. So talk to us.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we know that children just thrive when we have some predictable things in our lives. We know as adults when we can predict some of the things that are going to come. It just helps lower our worries, our stress, know that we're safe. Children are the same. They really want to be able to predict some of what's happening during their days. And so we know having routines, we think about morning routines, bedtime routines. They can really have an impact on scholars' behavior and also have an impact on some of their development. So if you think about some of those routines we set up with children really can support their development. For example, at bedtime, you might be singing songs with your children. That's really developing those early language skills. Or thinking about reading a book before bed, thinking about those early literacy skills. So we know that some of those routines that we build at home really do support that brain development early on.
Now, when we're talking about youngsters and youth and at a very young age, and then we're talking about those different, mobilities, shall we use as a word, then what are some of the things that can, shortening that gap when it comes to the routines and making sure that they get secure and build that confidence?
Yeah, I think, at my house, some of the things we do, having a few things at night that my scholars know they're going to get from me. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be, we're going to take a bath, we're going to get our pajamas on, we're going to read a book, and then we're shutting the lights out. Having those steps in place for them so they know what to expect can really help them long term. We know, we're going to need routines up until their adult life. And so if we can set them early, they're going to know how to do some of that for themselves.
Now, when it comes to parents and when it comes to caregivers, because there's a lot of different sides with the dynamics of family within itself, but then there's also a lot of struggles that are there as well. How do you create that structure and say, that this is how I want my child to be? I want them to grow up and to to feel loved, to be loved, those different things. What are some of the things that even you can do that can elevate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my first thing I think about is just having a trusting adult in every child's life. And as a parent, we could be that trusting adult. And so just knowing that you're there for your scholars from a young age, you can be, present for them during different times during their day, that's huge. And I think that's the biggest thing, being in that relationship with them. Sometimes it just takes asking them how their day was and letting them talk a little bit. We all want to be heard. We all want to be listened to, and that goes for our young scholars as well. So, being that loving, caring adult, like you said, that's really the most important thing to building these strong routines early on.
And then even beyond that, when it comes to the youngsters and starting at a very young age, but showing them as parents, as mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers, and showing them that structure and that guidance. The real key importance to all of that is showing that 4-letter word of LOVE, love.
Absolutely.
How important is it?
So important. We all want to be loved. We all want to be cared for. Children show us that all the time. And so I agree. Having that village around you, grandparents, aunties, everybody plays a role in that young child's development.
So, ladies and gentlemen, letting you know this is Arielle. I'd like to say thank you very much for enlightening the listening audience. And when we're talking about, being that one that's helping with the tutelage of youngsters at a very young age and helping them to grow. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Q-Bear. Have a good afternoon.
No doubt, no doubt. Looking at 38 minutes after the hour, 3 in the Twin Cities. And for those of you who are listening, if you'd like to hear more or see more, then what you might want to do is lock in at littlemomentscount.org/podcast, or you can lock in at Little Moments Count, and we're talking about littlemomentscount.org. It's FM 89.9 KMOJ, no doubt about it.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.